Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Trump says opioid abuse is a national public health emergency. 64,000 Americans died from opioids just last year. Lives have been ruined and families are in desperate need of help. But the president said steps can be taken by the government to help end this crisis. Our Gary Lane is on this story.
The president called opioid addiction the worst drug crisis in American history and called America to action.
It is time to liberate our communities from this scourge of drug addiction. We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. We can do it.
But Trump's critics, like House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, ask, if there's an emergency in America, why didn't he commit new federal money to fight it?
What I would say to the president on that is, show me the money. The president's statement are words without the money.
But the president believes wise steps can be taken by the executive branch without costing taxpayers more money. The president took action to let patients in rural America get prescriptions to treat addictions by phone or the internet. And he's cutting bureaucratic red tape, which will let more current federal funds go to treatment centers throughout the country. And the president got personal as he reminisced about his own brother, who died from an addiction more than 35 years ago.
He had a problem. He had a problem with alcohol. And he would tell me, don't drink. Don't drink.
And President Trump says he doesn't drink alcohol because of his brother's experience. As the president made his announcement, authorities arrested the billionaire CEO of pharmaceutical company Insys Therapeutics. He's expected to plead not guilty to charges that company officials bribed doctors to overprescribe the powerful opioid substance. The opioid crisis has taken a heavy toll throughout the country. CBN News has reported regularly on the crisis. Health reporter Lori Johnson talked with Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine. His state has limited the amount of painkillers that doctors can prescribe to patients at one time. And the state has brought lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies.
We had a number of pharmaceutical companies that developed pain meds, and they were pushing those out, and they were telling the doctors, these are not very addictive. Turns out they are very addictive.
Elaine Vance knows all too well just how addictive opioids can be. She started on painkillers and then transitioned to heroin because it was stronger and cheaper.
I remember doing the first time I ever done heroin. I remember thinking, this might kill me. I may die. And then the longer I was in active addiction, I remember mixing it up in the spoon and just saying, I hope this kills me. I'm ready to die.
But like others who have turned to faith-based treatment, Elaine overcame her bondage after joining a Christian outreach center and turning to God.
I started getting to know Jesus, and I realized that the same power that rose him from the grave is what fights addiction, not me. I can't beat it. And once I realized that was the power fighting for me, I knew I was never, ever going back.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
The Justice Department has agreed to pay damages to hundreds of Tea Party and other conservative groups after the IRS admitted it wrongfully targeted them during the Obama administration. The IRS said it should not have singled out those groups for intense scrutiny when they applied for tax-exempt status. The American Center for Law and Justice represented dozens of these groups.
All of our clients had to agree to this order, so they understood the impact this would have for future organizations like theirs, are similarly situated, so that they would not have to fight these battles again. That's what's important, is that no group will have to fight this again.
The IRS has apologized for its actions. The settlement does still need a judge's approval. The House of Representatives passed a budget Thursday, allowing the Republican Party to move ahead with its plan to overhaul the tax code and to create a $1.5 trillion tax cut. One of the top advisors to President Trump tells CBN News the White House plans to sign his tax reform bill into law by the end of the year. Mark Short is the White House Legislative Affairs Director. He spoke with CBN's David Brody and Jenna Browder on their Faith Nation show this week. He says he has a tough job of bringing Congress and the White House together on a deal and getting it passed.
When it comes to tax reform, how likely do you think it is that Congress will have a bill on the president's desk by the end of the year?
It's time to get this economy turning again and begin to create jobs for the American people. And so it's important, not for political reasons, it's important for the economy that we do this sooner rather than later. And our aim is to do it before the end of this year.
Mark, let me ask you a little bit about the stumbling blocks here. Is there one big one? Give me a sense of what's going to be the challenge here, getting this thing done.
Well, I think our challenge, David, is right now Congress is so broken along partisan lines. We think there's a lot of reasons that many of the Democrats would want to support tax relief, particularly not just because it's focused on middle-income families, but also because lowering the corporate rate will help to create jobs and keep jobs here in America.
You can watch that full interview with Mark Short on this week's Faith Nation. You'll find that one at CBN News' Facebook page. A Kentucky judge who declared a conscientious objection to allowing homosexuals to adopt is resigning. Judge Mitchell Nance said allowing a gay person to adopt could never be in the child's best interest. A complaint was filed against the judge with the state's Judicial Conduct Commission. Nance requested the charges be dismissed when he resigned. A gay rights activist said any judge who has a conscientious objection must resign from the bench. Widespread damage still covers the island of Puerto Rico more than a month since Hurricane Maria struck. But it's what can't be seen that is worrying doctors. Bacteria in the water could lead to big health problems. CBN's Eric Rosales shows us how Operation Blessing is there to ensure clean, safe drinking water.
I'm in the Roberto Clemente Coliseum. It's here where the city municipalities have been working out of providing food for the people here in Puerto Rico, but it's also here where Operation Blessing has been working out of since day one after the hurricane. They've been here providing clean, safe drinking water to the people by providing them with filtration systems.
So Operation Blessing has got all sorts of amazing tools for purifying water, everything from small family units that we've been distributing to larger units that we can put in a community, and they can take even seawater and turn it into clean drinking water, up to 1,800 gallons a day.
It couldn't have come at a better time, as at least 76 cases of lipospirosis have been confirmed here. Doctors say the spiral-shaped bacteria found in rodents and other animals tend to spread after flooding. Serious cases of infection can cause organ failure and even death.
Clean water is an urgent need here, and it has been for a long time. And Operation Blessing's been here since day one. We're going to continue to provide clean water to the people of Puerto Rico, amongst other things that we're doing to help.
So far, Operation Blessing has installed 11 community-sized water filtration systems throughout some of the hardest-hit areas of Puerto Rico.
This mess has been a result of the hurricane. Water filled our home, and now we can't find clean drinking water anywhere.
Now, thanks to OB, clean water is flowing from Lares in the north to Humacao in the east, to the hospital on the island of Vieques.
This is the pharmacy for the hospital. This is the medicine supply for this island of 10,000 people here. And Operation Blessing is helping to keep it going with our generators.
In addition to water filtration systems, Operation Blessing crew members are making chlorine. Just salt and water, and 8 hours of time, gallons of this chlorine solution can be made. Workers say just a capful with every 5 gallons of water can kill harmful bacteria and make it safe to drink. You can make the difference and provide clean drinking water to the people of Puerto Rico. If you'd like to help out, you can visit operationblessing.org. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Puerto Rico.
She is a refugee whose husband was shot by an ISIS sniper, and then a week later her sons were killed while they slept. Now this Syrian mother is telling people about hope. Her story is next. Stay with us for more of CBN NewsWatch straight ahead. This week, Vice President Pence said Christianity is under an unprecedented assault in the ancient land where it began. He delivered the keynote address at the In Defense of Christians annual summit in Washington Wednesday. Pence said the Trump administration is working tirelessly to help the persecuted church, and he still has faith God is with his people.
Under the leadership of President Donald Trump, I can assure you, the United States of America will always stand with those who suffer for their faith, and we will always support them in their hour of need, because I'm a believer. And I believe that he who said that when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, that he who said, I will never leave you or forsake you, never will.
The Vice President also announced the Trump administration will work directly with faith-based organizations to help persecuted communities. Many people believe Muslim refugees are a potential security threat, and some simply see them as people who are in need of help finding a job and a home. But others see an opportunity to save some of those refugees, not only for now, but for all of eternity. Our Gary Lane returns now with that story.
I'm standing on Mars Hill. This is the very spot where the Apostle Paul first introduced the Athenians to the gospel message. He talked to them about their unknown God and then introduced them to the one true God. 2,000 years later, evangelists are still preaching the gospel here, but instead of traveling long distances like they did during the time of Paul, those they're hoping to reach are coming to them. They're coming by the tens of thousands. Refugees and migrants fleeing war and hardship in their home countries, seeking refuge and a more promising future. Greece is their first stop in Europe.
I came to Greece with no purpose in mind. Not for money, not for wealth. I just want to forget what happened to my children. I want to live in a safe place and forget my children.
In 2015, a sniper in the Syrian civil war killed Amal's husband. A week later, while still grieving his death, she traveled to see her sister.
I left my sons at home and went to visit my sister, who lives 7 hours away. Her husband had just passed away. I went to comfort her. ISIS members came in the house at night while my sons were sleeping and slaughtered them.
Traumatized, Amal left the hurt and heartache of Syria behind. She made her way to Turkey and then Greece. Alone in a strange land, Amal, which means hope in Arabic, soon lost hope.
I have no one to talk to. I feel like my head is going to explode. I cannot sleep if I do not take a sleeping aid. I'm not used to being alone. I'm used to having my sons around me.
Around that same time, other refugees found a caring family at the Apostolic Evangelical Church of Thessaloniki.
We saw that need coming to our door, coming to our city, and we had to react.
As a part of that outreach, a volunteer named Katie approached Amal.
I sat down next to her and I hung her and I said, "It's okay to pray with you in God?" And she said, "It's okay."
When Katie saw me, she hugged me and helped me. She took me to church where I showered and she gave me clothes. When I visited the church on Friday, I felt so comfortable and I slept that night without taking a sleeping pill. I was so happy. I loved the program. Everything I heard was so true. It's all in the Bible. It was a happy day for me.
Afterward, Amal underwent an operation to remove a spot on her liver. She then told CBN News how the experience grew her faith.
It's true that my children were taken away, but God stood by me when I needed Him during the surgery. After surgery, my connection with God became stronger because I got to the church more often and I could trust God. This is the only thing that matters.
As a result, Amal made a big decision, then demonstrated her commitment to Christ.
I was baptized because I trust God so much.
The United Nations placed Amal in an apartment along with a Muslim family. Although she would prefer to share housing with a Christian widow like herself, Amal told us she wants God to use her where she is.
I want to show God's love to others here and be an example to people. I'm praying that I'll forget my pain and experience a new, healthy life full of joy.
And after visiting regularly with Amal, her new friend Katie is optimistic for the future.
Amal means hope. And I think nothing is by chance. Yes, I think there is hope. There is hope for Amal.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Thessaloniki, Greece.
A young stroke victim who's defied all the odds. Watch how this wife and mother continues to exceed all expectations when we come back with more of CBN NewsWatch. Catherine Wolfe was just 26 years old when she suffered a massive stroke. It nearly killed her. Against all odds, she survived. And as strange as it may sound, she says what happened actually made her life better and her faith deeper. Catherine and her husband, Jay, shared their amazing story with CBN's Abigail Robertson.
You might think a near-fatal stroke in the prime of her life would have made Catherine Wolfe bitter, but that's far from the case.
Young suffering is pretty awesome because, and not in the moment, but long after, you see the beautiful ways it has enhanced your life. As crazy as that sounds.
Catherine and her husband Jay are sharing that outlook with a ministry in the book, highlighting the remarkable ways hope in Christ can heal your life.
It's tragic in our world. Everybody is so bitter about everything that's happened to them and so beat up by the world and truly so broken by it. And the reality is, in my story, in the gospel story, and in all stories, in my opinion, there is a beautiful opportunity for redemption and for turning our bitterness into a deep gratitude.
Arriving at this point, however, meant taking a long, hard journey with many bumps along the way. As newlyweds, life looked pretty great. Jay was almost finished with law school, Catherine was getting modeling jobs, and they had a beautiful newborn baby. Then, the stroke hit.
We rushed her to the hospital, at UCLA Hospital, and they determined she was having a massive brainstem stroke, and it was caused by this rare genetic malformation in her brain near her brainstem. Such a severe stroke that they really didn't know if she would even be able to do surgery, much less if she would live.
Even with that prognosis, doctors performed 16 hours of surgery that included removing part of Catherine's brain in an attempt to save her life.
The next day, doctor came out, said she had survived, but they didn't know if she would ever wake up or if she would be vegetative or paralyzed. And by God's grace, just surely but surely, she began waking up and just communicating that she was still inside.
Catherine still faced a harsh reality. She couldn't walk, talk, or eat, and half of her face was paralyzed.
Here I am, 26 years old, a new mother, barely out of the newlywed phase of life. And now I'm being told, essentially your life is shot, it's over, and there's no hope, kind of thing. And the reality is, I knew on a deep level that they weren't right.
Despite that intuition, the chances of regaining her abilities appeared slim, as did the survival of their marriage. In the hospital, Jay and the family learned 90% of couples their age divorced following a medical crisis to one spouse.
About 2 months into my ordeal, a well-meaning social worker told my father-in-law that he needed to get his son out of there, that the hospital grind was too much, that under 30-year-olds could never stay married through this kind of tragedy.
Jay's dad suggested a trip to Yosemite, but Jay refused, determined to wait for Catherine. His dad told the social worker they'd wait on the trip, and he thought their marriage would turn out just fine.
We're grateful that we can be a team, and from the first day of our life taking this dramatically different course, God has just given us this sense that we're doing it together.
After months in the hospital, Catherine's healing defied predictions, one miracle at a time. As things progressed, Catherine moved into a rehabilitation center.
When we entered into this next longer-term phase of recovery at brain rehab, it was pretty shocking to be in and among this community of people who are all in the worst place in their whole life.
Jay and their son lived nearby, while Catherine had to stay with the other patients. Even in those surroundings, Catherine and Jay saw an opportunity.
I felt like this holy burden to really love them, come alongside them, just provide a different voice than the ones they were hearing, and just really share for me the hope and faith that I felt, that everything is going to be okay in the end.
While not everyone took kindly to her approach, she remained determined.
They weren't going to inform my attitude about my recovery I was going to inform their attitude about recovery, which was, we're going to overcome.
Against all odds, Catherine improved enough to go home to her family. And they finally took that trip to Yosemite.
You can go through the ringer again and again. And the one thing we know for sure is that God was faithful before, and he will be again. And we've seen that every time, that as bad as we've had post-stroke things happen, we can always look back and remember and say, oh yeah, God was there working every second of that out.
Remarkably, 7 years after the stroke, Catherine and Jay welcomed a new son to the family, John Nestor Wolf, named after the neurosurgeon who helped save Catherine's life.
By all medical odds, there's no reason John should be in this world. And so to just have a picture of such grace in his life and to again be reminded that God's plan and purpose for us, even in the midst of our great tragedy, is a good purpose for his glory. And it's just a daily reminder to lean into that hope.
And as part of that plan, they're spreading the word through their book, ministry, and a summer camp for other people with special needs.
So we're really excited to sort of enter into a new season of being able to take, again, the comfort that we've received, the resources in the community that have just championed us, and to give that to other families in need.
Their positivity through it all is inspiring people all over the world. Catherine and Jay plan to write another book, and there may even be an upcoming movie on their life about how they learned through their experience to redefine healing and manifest hope instead.
Hope in Christ has healed my soul, and that's the ultimate healing we all need anyway.
Feeling frustrated? Know this: frustration is often an indication that you no longer belong in the present situation. Trust God to move you. He's likely the reason you aren't comfortable where you are. With that word, make this a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you right back here come Monday.